Hello there and welcome back to more modern point-and-click adventure games. I know it's been a while since the last of these episodes, so you get an additional 5th game this time around because you've been very good last year and earned it. And no, the Jester and the Madman that you can see in the background won't be part of this video. That's my own point-and-click I released last October. I'd be very happy if you check that out, but now let's get this video rolling.
Don't make your living selling other people's books when you're trying to write your own. It seems brilliant at first. Immerse yourself in your craft, get a sense for what's popular, gather moments of inspiration from the unassuming corners of the world. But immersing yourself in anything eventually takes its toll.
Slender Threads is a mystery adventure game adorned with some horror elements. It's not very frightening, but has a dense, weary atmosphere. Combined with its unique visuals, it reminds me of the Tim Burton produced movie Coraline, if you've seen that. And as in that movie, not everything is what it seems and there's a darker threat looming in the background. What sounds like a suspenseful setting did drag on a bit though, and I sometimes wish that the plot would move forward at a quicker pace. Though there is some nice puzzling on the way and many unique locations and characters to discover. For a modern point and click, I would rate the difficulty as slightly above average. Yes, many puzzles are pretty obvious, but there's a handful that threw me off for a bit. If I had one nitpick with the gameplay, it would be that you get a map to move around the locations, but for whatever reason that map is not complete. So there can be locations that you have to walk by manually to enter that won't show up on the map, which got me stuck big time at one point in the game when I just jumped between all the locations on the map and missed the one I had to go to. And it's not like there's a story reason why that location doesn't show up on the map, it's just not there, like an oversight. The game also features a hint system that allows you to go more and more into detail on what you have to do, which is very nice. For some puzzles it was not very helpful though, not alluding to the one thing that you had to do that was least intuitive. Presentation wise, this game is a home run. At least if you don't mind the paper cutout animation style. But all the locations are very detailed and smoothly animated and the voice acting is just great.
The referring physician should have it.
Right, thanks.
We appreciate your visit.
The big finale of the game was a bit tedious to play in my opinion, but the epilogue made more than good on that, leading to one of the most satisfying and memorable game endings I've played in a while. So if you're in for a spooky time in a quirky, bizarre world and don't mind a bit of a challenge, you'll feel right at home here in Slender Threads.
I jumped the car back in Breaker's Cut. Told myself I'd never come back. But well, shit. Here I am.
If you're interested in adventure games, you've probably already heard about The Drifter, as this title made quite a splash in the indie gaming community when it came out last year. And with all games that get praised to the skies, I became a bit skeptical if it really lives up to the hype. Also, I was a bit put off by the reviewers complimenting the game's fast pace and intensity, not something I typically look for in a point-and-click adventure. But hey, I did give it a shot and now I'm a believer. The Drifter is an amazing game, objectively probably the best adventure game of 2025. Not my personal favorite, we'll get to that later, but masterfully executed with a brilliant story. There were a few twists that I saw coming, but some others really surprised me. The story was indeed fast-paced, but as you can instantly revive after a death sequence and time-based events are rare and fairly paced, it never felt in any way overwhelming or too stressful to me. Yes, the game has quite some sci-fi mumbo-jumbo, but the plot does respect the intelligence of the player for the most part, and it always feels like those technicalities don't get in the way of a gripping character-based experience. Now if you're wondering, the CRT filter you see in the video is not part of the game but something that I add to most of my pixel adventures I play, so if you don't like that, don't worry, the game features beautiful crisp pixel art out of the box. What I particularly like were those screen-wide light animations in the background that I think I've never seen in any other game. So where typically only a handful of objects are animated in the background, the drifter ever so slightly changes the light's direction, infusing a swath of pixels with life and giving the game an almost dreamlike atmosphere. The voiceovers are also amazing throughout, with maybe one little nitpick I have: the inner monologue of the protagonist gets extremely dramatic ever so often. Yes, this adds a bit of drama and urgency to the game, but it took me out of the experience a bit, as in an inner monologue you wouldn't scream at yourself. Well, at least I never did that, and it felt a bit strange to me.
Drop it now, talk later.
Dad, in here!
Alec, wait! I'm coming!
I wouldn't try it.
I dive for the hole, try to scrabble up. Shouts from behind. A shot thuds into the mud. The next one, I don't hear. Once more, the light. Reality breaking up, reforming. Back how it was. But somehow, wrong.
Quite a few of the raving reviews I read or watched did gloss over the small imperfections of the game for me, so let me at least mention them, even though they don't drag down the quality by a lot. In particular, there was one puzzle that felt a bit unfair to me. Like in many other adventure games, there are plentiful hotspots to interact with in the game, most just things to look at to add a bit of backdrop to the scene. These interactions are completely optional and 9 times out of 10, but just once in the game you had to look outside a window without getting any hint why you would do that to progress the game. I got stuck there and was only able to proceed with the help of a walkthrough, as that part was during a time in the game where you had access to a ton of locations, all with their own hotspots, so I just couldn't figure this one out by myself. Which leads me to my third nitpick. There's a hotspot highlight feature, but it's turned off by default and hidden in the settings menu. I really don't understand that choice. Why implement such a convenient feature and then bury it? Well, I played through the majority of the game having to pixel hunt before I even realized it was there. But that's really all the negatives I have, and I strongly recommend playing this game. It's unique, extremely well made, and will be worth your time. After a real blockbuster, we'll move on to a much smaller game in scale, Midnight Margo. I picked up the game for just $1, yes, that's the regular price, and didn't expect too much of it. It is rated positive with just 15 reviews though, and a great example why you should give smaller games a chance, because sometimes you find a diamond in the rough. The game features a pretty unique blend of point-and-click adventure with some light RPG elements and a very unusual art style. But what really won me over was the writing. The game tackles some serious topics about mental health, and it does so with sincerity and tact without ever becoming too bleak or depressing. On the contrary, we meet a very charming and optimistic protagonist, or if not optimistic, one with a good fighting spirit and lots of courage. That being said, the main plot does not revolve around these topics, but is more of an intriguing mystery about a recently deceased young man who went to school with Margo and why he contacted her recently even though they barely knew each other. The whole game takes place during one night with the goal of learning enough about him to hold an eulogy while fighting your own insecurities about speaking in public. This is also where the RPG mechanics come in. You play make-believe to improve your mental health by pretending to gain stats, accepting quests and bearing tokens. The game doesn't take this very seriously, but it's a fun enough setup and mostly plays into unlocking dialogue choices based on the stats you currently possess. It doesn't work perfectly and is more of an optional thing, but at least you can't softlock yourself if you choose the wrong stats or items. What it does is that it unlocks additional dialogue and sometimes alternative ways to solve puzzles, and making your character look goofy when you're wearing a hodgepodge of clothing to min-max your character. Apropos looks, as you might have already figured out by the video footage playing, the game has a very unique look with its bobblehead character designs and digitized photos. The Steam page states that it does involve some AI usage, but I did not recognize that even when I was playing the game. It's very subtle. The look actually really kind of grown on me and definitely stands out, though I could imagine that it might be a turn-off for some who prefer a more classic look to their adventures. What I can say is that the voice acting is unquestionably great, a real feat for such a low budget or at least low price game. Especially Margo herself perfectly finds the tone of a sassy, insecure but overall very likable young adult.
There. So what are you guys up to today?
Me and Daniel are chilling. Susie is working on her thesis.
Hey, I heard those quotation marks.
But in actuality, she's just browsing for random trivia.
Hey, did you know that trivia comes from the Latin word for three, as in the three types of knowledge, namely grammar, logic, and rhetoric?
So, Margo, what are your plans for tonight?
Well, it seems there's some stuff I need to look into. But then my plan is to hang out with you guys.
Oh, and I didn't even talk about the puzzles here. They are good, pretty straightforward for the most part, but one puzzle in particular was a bit obtuse and got me stuck. Sometimes you have to revisit places to see if things have changed or new dialogue options have opened up, but there are never too many locations available at once for it to become a real pain. Midnight Margo, a refreshing and charming adventure with a more serious undertone.
Hundreds will gather in Slope City Park tonight to observe our first total lunar eclipse in 11 years. The blood moon gets its name from the reddish glow cast onto the moon by the sunlight refracted in Earth's atmosphere. This phenomenon has haunted many civilizations and was often believed to signal malevolence.
Elroy and the Aliens is the perfect game to play with your kids. It's charming, witty, and most importantly feels like a real adventure and not just like some kids game. There are stakes and the characters are not talking to you like you're a baby, but like actual people. The game has this optimistic attitude towards exploration and curiosity that I think children can appreciate and learn from. So no, this is not an educational game, but a family game in my opinion. But is it a good one? Yes, it absolutely is. The two very likable characters, Elroy, the young scientist, and Peggy, the reporter, take you on a journey to find Elroy's missing dad, an archaeologist. And if you're thinking Indiana Jones, you're not that far off, even though the titular aliens are a lot more charming than the strange banana heads we got to see in this crystal skull. Puzzles are a combination of your typical inventory puzzles and a few logic puzzles. They are definitely more on the easier side, but you can see the effort the devs put into them to come up with many interesting variations, so I never got bored with them. Presentation-wise, the game also knows how to impress. The backgrounds are colorful and characters are smoothly animated. I especially like the dynamic camera work that made the game feel much more cinematic than some of its more static contemporaries. And yes, the game is fully voiced with great talent, infusing the cast with life and humor.
I can make them go up or down. When I play a fast song, they go up. And when I play a slow song, they go down.
Can you play a slow song?
Which one? There are so many. I know all of them.
I don't know. You pick one?
So isn't there anything I can complain about here? Not really, the game is really well executed. The only thing that I personally didn't like so much about the game was the aforementioned kid-friendliness. It is just a bit too friendly and wholesome, lacking any kind of edge to make it more interesting to me. And while there's nothing wrong with the plot, it just didn't grab my attention as other adventure games did. It's a bit like a well-made animated Disney movie. I enjoy the ride, but I might not think about it in the future. But if you're a Disney fan or have kids to enjoy this adventure together, I say go for it. I hope you've enjoyed the video so far, and before we get to our last game, you might want to consider subscribing. There'll be many more point-and-click adventure and retro computer gaming videos on this channel in the future.
I one story a long time ago. Story of love. Runner. Avenger. Ice cream.
This game not only won the award for my favorite point and click of 2025, but also my heart. It's been a very long time since I've played a comedy adventure that felt so special. It's just the perfect mix of intrigue, mischief and nostalgia for me, and I would go so far as to rank Dan among other adventure legends like Guybrush Threepwood or Roger Wilco. One thing that plays a big part in my appreciation is the boardwalk location during the 90s. I've spent 3 months in the US when I was a teenager, and the family I stayed with took me to a boardwalk very similar on multiple occasions. That's why I said earlier that The Drifter is probably objectively the better game, but for me personally, this setting connects on a much deeper level. Through my rose-tinted glasses, I see a time where everything felt so much easier and the world was just a better place. But there's also a great game lying beneath all that nostalgia. Gameplay is mostly your typical inventory puzzle affair, but there are a few sections that mix up the gameplay style quite a bit. There's even a stealth section that can be skipped though, which I'm pretty thankful for because I personally really don't like stealth games. The puzzles are sometimes a bit out there and it might take a while to understand the game's perspective on the world, but they never got overly difficult. Some of them actually felt really rewarding after completion. My main gripe would be that some parts of the game are a bit repetitive, where you have to repeat some interactions multiple times to progress, but that's more of a nitpick. The plot is also surprisingly strong. There's a real mystery to uncover here and many locations that will open up over the course of the game. The world is slightly strange, weird, but still familiar, just like some of the characters you'll encounter. Don't want to give away the ending here, but it's pretty spectacular and satisfying, I would say. I also really enjoyed the colorful retro look of the game, but I've read from other people that they felt that the 2D and 3D elements didn't really match and were put off by that, but you can form your own opinion on that based on this video, I would say. The voice acting on the other hand is superb. Every voice actor just sounds like a teen right from the 90s, or at least how cool teens from the 90s were portrayed in the media back then.
What a snooze fest! Sporelords would blow them off stage! You'll see tonight when we rock out at the boombox.
But the real star here is Dan, obviously, a well-meaning but not always well-mannered character that made me laugh many times with his unique delivery.
No, I'm Dink the Butcher. Hazard.
Nah, don't worry. That's all made up, man.
It is not.
It is real.
Don't say too much. You never know who's working with him.
Okay, bye.
Wildwood Down is hands down the best time you can have with an adventure game when you can in any way relate with its setting and humor. I really hope we'll see more adventures with Daniel in the future, but until then, see ya!